I had all of their material. Everything that they printed and everything else I had from many of them. 1 Samuel, the 28th chapter. 1 Samuel chapter 28. We're going to take a look at this chapter in the Bible. It's extremely important. It covers the Old Testament and the New Testament. And 1 Samuel 28, chapter 28. And then go to Acts 16 and verse 16. Some of you. All right. Acts 16 and verse 16. And then 1 Kings 18 and verse 29. We're just giving you a bunch of different scriptures. And then, if you want to, later on though, how many of you have my Master CC's? What's called the Near Cult. Okay? How many of you have it? Anybody?
Is the introduction to cults?
No, I've got that. No, you've got that one too. I wrote that one too. That's another one. Okay? This one on page number... starts on about page 36. 35. 35 through page about 48 is where this subject is covered, okay? About 35 through 48. And if you're in the Bible in 8 Ages, it's around 315 where we are, okay? And what page are we in on the, mine's, I think, 66, page 66 in your syllabus, okay? We covered a lot of territory here. All right. 1 Samuel 28th chapter. Are you there, Connie? Yeah. 28 and verse 3 is where we're going to start.
Now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had lamented him, and buried him in Ramah,
Okay.
even in his own city. And Saul had put away those that had familiar spirits and the wizards out of the land.
Okay. So now we have here, we've got mediums and wizards, or spiritists, all right? How long do you think these people have been around? Huh? A long, long time. If you look in the book of Isaiah, and you look in 1 Kings, the 18th chapter, and verse 29. 1 Kings 18:29. Let's go there and look at that now. 1 Kings 18:29. Over there. I wish Joanne had her Bible open. That would all be pretty good in that one. All right. 1 Kings 18 and verse 29. Let's just see what in the world that Bible says. 1 Kings 18:29. I'd like to see what yours comes up with.
(1821).
Okay, 18:29. 1 Kings 18:29.
They raved all afternoon until the time of the evening sacrifice, but still there was no reply, no voice, no answer.
Okay, they raved. All right, they were in a manic frenzy. The orb is one of the terms, or orb. In Greek, it's mantuase. Mantuase. All right, that's what was going on here. Find mine. That's where it goes back to that root. All right. Can you read that, brother? No. That starts with an M. That's how you spell it in English. Okay? Our English word, that comes from that word. What's that word? Mantic. Mantic. Hysterical. Mantic, Manic? Manic? All right, have a manic episode. When you have a manic episode, what do you do? Huh? What do you do?
Depression, I thought, I don't know.
Manic episode. What's a manic episode? When you're out of control. All right, you're not in control of yourself. All right? That's what it is. All these words come from Greek. All right? And let's look at some of this stuff. Acts 16:16. Did we have this in the New Testament? Acts 16:16. Are you over there?
No, I'm just trying to get there.
Oh, all right. Acts 16:16. You think you can find Acts?
Yeah, I think I can.
That's in the New Testament.
I know.
Okay. All right. Brother John,
Yes, sir.
Dr. John, are you in Acts 16:16?
Yes, sir.
Can you read that for me, please?
I would love to. 16:16. Now it happened, as we went to prayer, that a certain slave girl possessed with a spirit of divination met us, who has brought her masters much profit of fortune telling.
All right, but brought her masters much profit. Can anybody read that word right there? Any of you, Marilyn? Can you read this word?
I can't.
You can't see it. Our word python comes from that word. It's pythona. Our word python comes from it. Okay? Python. What is a python? What do you got there, brother?
That's what it says, Python.
All right, read that for me,
It
brother.
says, and it came to pass as we were on our way unto the place of prayer, a certain damsel having a spirit of Python met us, who indeed much gain was pursuing after her masters by divining.
Okay, by divining. All right. Python. What is a python? Anybody know what a python is? What's a python, Brother Brett?
Snake.
Yeah, he chokes you.
How do you say that in Hebrew? How do you say the word snake in Hebrew?
Uh,
Nahash. Thank you. Nahash. All right, Nahash. Oh, we're doing A+ for today. All right, Acts 16:16. Here we have it in 1 Samuel 28. All right, Acts 16:16. What else do we have? Let's look at some things. All right, Isaiah 8 and verse 19. Let's go over there. Isaiah 8 and verse 19. Hold these other places in line here. We're going to explain this a little bit better. Isaiah 8 and verse 19. What's it say over there? What do you got there, Dr. John?
And when they say to you, seek those who are mediums and wizards, who whisper and mutter, should not a people seek their God? Should they seek the dead on behalf of the living?
All right. Now this is the story that we got here. All right. What is the story of this Mantua Mane? Mantis. Mansia. All of this. Let's go back. Now this girl in the New Testament, what was she? She's a fortune teller, wasn't she? All right. Have any of you ever seen a fortune teller? On the side of the road?
yeah.
Can you go any place that you don't see a palm, a hand sticking up in the air? How many cities you ever been in you haven't seen this? Huh? Not very
There
many.
is one here on Miles.
There's one on Nile Street. There's some downtown in Bakersfield. Or if you go into Pismo, there was one up there with a palm reader over there. That's a fortune teller. All right? It's a wizard. Okay? Fortune tellers are called wizards. Now, what did they do? You go back into the ancient temples. Back in yonder years, you go back to the ancient temples. And you had to go and stand in line to have your fortune told. The pagan culture is something else, okay? Let me tell you a little bit about this. Here's a temple, all right? I've been in some of these temples over there in the Middle East and in Europe, okay? You went out here to the gate. The temple was in a temple area, and you come up to the temple and out over here in a background, you would meet a priest out here, okay? And you would give him a piece of paper and write down what you wanted. And what would they be seeking back in those days? What would they be seeking? You were going to start a stonemason, you're going to start a brickyard, or cutting stone yard, and just say, now, should I start this stone yard? This is what they would ask. All right, these are some of the questions. They have these written down on tablets and stones still, what some of these questions were that they had to. This is just one of them, okay? They would be out asking, should I start another stonemason business here in Ephesus? Okay? And they say, you go over here and you take this tablet up there and give it to the priest. And they go in there and they take it to this old person over here. That was the interpreter. And they say one of these, they would be, there's a hole in the ground where vapors were coming up out of the ground. Okay?
No, I believe you.
Every one of
No, I
these,
know you're
that
telling the
they're,
truth. You're telling the truth.
it says these messages are subterranean in source. Okay? Now this is true. These are historical. This really happened in some of these temples. Okay? And they would have a person suspended over this hole where these vapors are coming up, and they're sitting there on a chair. Okay? See, that was an Oklahoma word for cheer. Cheer.
A cheerleader or a cheer student?
All right. That had a little bit of Paul's Valley in it. Okay? Cheer. Okay? And they would have this person sitting on this thing here and breathing these vapors. And these vapors would inspire them. All right? And this person would talk in a language of the underworld to the priests that were standing over here. And then the priest would interpret to the person what was said. Yeah, go ahead. You'll do real good if you start a stone business in Ephesus. Or don't do it. The economy's going to go flat, and they're going to make all they're going to take and do something else with that stone quarry where you want to be. That would be a facsimile, okay? In Acts, the 16th chapter, we have the same thing. Same story. This girl. But this girl was that person right there. Okay? She was getting messages from the underworld. Okay? Back in 1 Kings, the 18th chapter, verse 29. Did you go over there, 1 Kings 18:29? Joanne? I wanted to see what 1 Kings 18:29.
That's the one I did.
Okay, read it again.
They raved all afternoon until the time of the evening sacrifice, but still there was no reply.
Okay,
No
now what they're
voice,
doing,
no answer.
what they're doing is they're raving in their languages to the underworld.
Babbling.
Babbling. It means to mutter. It means to whisper. All of these different things is like this. Okay? Now this was going on in the pagan culture forever and ever and ever. Back in Genesis. Okay? You can go all the way and trace it all back in Genesis. And I traced it here historically in this book. Okay? When I did that, I actually, you know, when you go to college, you get an associate degree, and then you get a bachelor's degree. I wrote my bachelor's paperwork on this. It was just a little short thing. And my teacher asked me, he said, you ought to write your master's degree on this one. Just take this thing and expand it. He said, this is really good. Nobody else knows the language is good enough to do this. So he said, you do this. He said, it'll be a great work from now on. You know, people will want this thing. Well, I did, and that was a master's degree, the master's thesis. I traced this all around through all of this, the history of this and everything, and even in the pagan temples. Now, this is what it was. All right? And Acts, the 16th chapter. Now, let's go and look at that again. Acts 16 and verse 16, okay? And then we're going to understand what's going on back here in 1 Samuel a lot better. Okay? A lot better. Acts 16:16. Are you over there, Joanne? I'd like to see what that says, and that sometimes that gets pretty good. Acts 16:16.
One day, as we were going down to the place of prayer, we met a demon-possessed slave girl. She was a fortune teller who earned a lot of money for her master.
All right, now this girl is overcome with the spirit of a python. And in the Old Testament, what spoke to Eve in the garden? Nahash, the snake. All right? And by the way, it says the snake became the snake. God did not create that snake subtle and crooked and wicked and deceitful. That's what that whole term says. And that's the word for sin, too. And that's the word that describes Satan. All right? Here we have the first, in Genesis, the 3rd chapter, we have the snake. All right? And the snake is a representative of what?
The devil?
Of the devil and all of his evil. Back here in Isaiah the 14th chapter and Ezekiel the 28th chapter, what do we have back there? And Luke the, I think, 8th chapter and verse 10 in the New Testament, it talks about it. And in the book of Revelation, it talks about, what do we have back there in Ezekiel and Isaiah? We have the history of the rebellion of the angelic forces. God created at least 3 realms of angels. We have who? Who are the 3, what we call archangels?
Gabriel,
Michael, and Lucifer. All right. Lucifer is the one that inhabited that snake in the garden. Now, these messages from the underworld, okay, have always come through satanic forces. Now, we have 3 groups of angels, don't we? And spirits that work with them. Now, spirits and angels are 2 different things. I know a lot of people don't make any difference in those, but a spirit and an angel are 2 different things. Whenever you see an angel in the Bible, what do you see? What does it represent? What do you see when you see an angel?
Messenger from God.
A messenger from God, but what does he look like?
Bodily image.
He looks like a man. All right? So they have form. All right? Whenever you hear of spirits in the Bible, all right, it's pneuma in the New Testament. All right? Malach in the Old Testament, that's the word for angel, messenger, something very powerful being. You know, king is from that same root. Okay? And in the New Testament, it's angelos, which we get our word angel from. Okay? And spirits, it is ruah in the Old Testament and pneuma in the New Testament. How many of you have had pneumatic tools? You know what a pneumatic tool is? That's an air-powered tool. Now the word ruah means wind. All right? And the word pneuma in the New Testament means what? Air. Wind or air. Okay? Now, you can see what wind does, but you can't see wind, can you? Now, in a person's life, what gives you life?
Spirit.
Spirit. Okay? Now, here we have angels, and we have spirits. Now, spirits do not have form. Angels have form. Okay? Spirits don't have form, but angels have form. But we find out in the Bible that there was at least 1/3 of the angels and spirits went with Satan when he rebelled. Okay? 1/3 of them went with him when they rebelled. Now, spirits inhabit, they like to inhabit human or animal flesh. We know that from what the Bible teaches. They like to inhabit human or animal flesh. They like to take control of it. We have the guy named Legion in the New Testament. You ever heard of him? Legion. That means because he was many. All right? There was at least 2,000 demons in that one man there at the Sea of Galilee, the one called the Gadarene demoniac. Okay? And there were 2 of them there, by the way. And you become very powerful. Now, in the drug culture today, do you think that drugs and demonism have something in common?
Yeah.
You better believe it. Those people in the book of Revelation that are the, it says, I can't remember what it says in King James and the other ones. I don't even remember what it said in Greek. Can't even think of it right now. But he said they're the pharmacists, the drug pushers, and the drug addicts. Okay? Drug pushers and the drug addicts. All right?
The RX.
Yeah.
What does it mean, Jim, the RX?
Prescriptions. Prescriptions. Self-medication. There's a lot of self-medication in Skid Row, aren't there? People medicating themselves on alcohol or drugs. And there's where most of your crime is, isn't it? Most of your crime. Like that. Pharmakia. We get a word pharmacy from that. Drugs. In drugs, and by the way, many of these people have drugs. I might just drop this and note. Among the American Indians, how many of you heard peyote?
I have.
Peyote. You've heard of peyote, you know, they said, we always smoking peyote. No, you don't smoke
Put it in your
peyote.
mouth.
What you do is you make a tea out of it and drink it. It makes you sick and then you have visions.
You know,
That's what the old Indians called that cheap religion. And the alcohol. The old Indian says, do not drink alcohol and don't take that peyote. That's cheap religion. Well, it felt like they were in the spirit world. You know. But it was no good. All right. So we see this. All right. Now go back to 1 Samuel 28. All right. We got a little bit about idea of what's going on here now. Just a little bit of background. This is the old thing. Of course, in 1 Samuel 28 chapter, here we still have it in the New Testament times. We have this girl empowered by demon forces. Remember there at the Sea of Galilee, when Jesus cast the demons out of that man, what did they want to do? What did they want to do? Where did the demons want to go?
You want to go
To the pigs.
They wanted to go into animal flesh. If they couldn't inhabit human flesh, they wanted to go to animal flesh. And then pigs, you know, pigs are smart. I've said this a lot of times, you know, some of you have seen Wilbur, my pig, you know, I mean, she's old, geriatric and everything. Big old sow that we've had for 11 years. She's about 12 years old or so. I've always said that the reason why God didn't want us eating pigs is because they're smarter than we are. Man shouldn't eat anything smarter than him. I used to say on the ham radio, I said, that pig's got more sense than most ham operators. I meant it too. He's pretty smart. What did those swine do when the demons went into them?
Ran off the cliff.
They ran off the cliff and jumped in the Sea of Galilee and drowned themselves. They'd rather be dead than to be demon possessed. They had more sense than the guy. Okay? Let's go back and look at this now. Mediums. Orban is one of the terms in Hebrew. Now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had lamented over him, and buried him in Ramah, his own city, and Saul and removed from the land, and those that were possessed, and mediums. How strong is this culture in America today?
Which one?
The New Age culture. What about New Age culture? Even the American Indians got caught up with this business. Some of them.
What about science?
How many of you have heard of Rosicrucian?
Yeah.
What is the New Age culture? Anybody heard of Buddha?
Oh, yeah.
Anybody ever heard of Buddha?
You talking about the science thing, the New Age science?
New Age. What is New Age? What's the whole idea is? What's the whole idea of it? Reincarnation. Where you die. You know that Buddha was so afraid of reincarnation that he was trying to figure out a way the person could reach nirvana and just cease to exist when he died. Instead of being reincarnated in a flea or a fly or some cow or whatever. He was afraid to be reincarnated, so he was going through all this. He went through, I think it was 7 weeks that he had a so-called vision and showed him how to not get reincarnated into a flea and a fly and a bug. Or a cow or a fox or a skunk. Or a dog.
Now, why did you have to go fox and right to skunk?
We're talking about real foxes, brother.
Okay.
Brother Fox.
Thank you.
Okay. He didn't want to be reincarnated and all these things. People have the idea that you die and are born again. You die and are born again. What is all this reincarnation thing? Okay. Mediums. The whole idea is, and when my uncle died, where did he leave his money?
His boot?
That's what the girl was doing. And you know what? They actually could tell where the money was. How did they tell where the money was? How did they tell these things? Because spirits are all over the world. In the information realm of God, in the angelic forces, who is over the information, this decimation of information? Who gives you information? According to the Bible, the book of Daniel, the book of Revelation, everything. When somebody called up, who appeared to Mary? An angel what? Who was he? What was his name? Gabriel. Gabriel is over the information realm. And some of his angels rebelled from him, and some of the spirits. Now, if anybody is getting any information from anybody, it's from those fallen angels and fallen spirits, okay? Because they can give you information, all right? They can do it, all right? So that's who we're dealing with here now. People that are indwelt with demons. Fallen angels and fallen spirits are dealing with these people. Now, if anybody has some real information where they have on some of these, these talk shows, look at how the television was just infiltrated with this. People would record. They wouldn't even go to work. They wanted to hear what so-and-so this show program said. Number 4 now. Number 4, verse number 28 and verse number 4.
Brother Floyd.
Floyd, are you over there? 28 and verse 4. 1 Samuel 28 and 4.
I'm there.
Okay.
And when it was told Saul that David had fled to Gath, he sought for him no more.
Okay, no, you're in the wrong chapter. 28 and verse 4.
Are you on 1 or 2?
First Samuel?
Yeah, 1 Samuel 28 and verse 4.
That's what he read, yeah.
That's what I read.
So the Philistines gathered together and came and camped at Shunea, and Saul gathered all Israel together, and they camped at Gilboa.
Okay, how did he do this if he's already dead?
Who?
Saul.
Saul's not dead.
Oh, Samuel dead.
Samuel's dead.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. Verse number 5. Brother Fox.
When Saul saw the Philistine army, he was afraid. Terror filled his heart. He inquired of the Lord, but the Lord did not answer him by dreams or Urim or prophets.
All right. Okay, now what does it say there? Are you over there? Young lady?
For the Pharisees, you want 28 and 4?
No, 28 and verse 6. 28 and verse 6.
He asked the Lord what he should do, but the Lord refused to answer him, either by dreams or by sacred lots, or by the prophets.
All right. He couldn't get any answers from God, because God had cut him off from his answers. God, remember when Samuel grabbed Samuel's coat and tore his coat, and he said, so has God rendered the kingdom. How many of you think that Saul was a saved man? Do you think he's saved?
No, he acted.
He was saved. We're going to have information that he was saved, but he was an ungodly buzzard just like Lot. You would never know that Lot was saved. But it says that Lot vexed his righteous soul. So his soul was righteous. Here we have a saved man that went the wrong way. He just constantly went the wrong way, and God's going to cut him off. Well, that's what happened. How about Ananias and Sapphira in the New Testament? You think they were saved? Yeah. God killed them. Because they lied to the church, and they lied to the Lord. Who had a question?
Jim, the Urim and Thummim, now those are the jewels that are on the priest's garments?
Yes, they were the stones.
And they
Urim means lights, I think it is. Urim means truth. Urim means lights, and Thummim means truths. That's
So
what
they
it is.
kind of light up.
Well, lights, information. Lights, it meant information.
So they didn't physically like.
Urim, well, it wouldn't matter, but they revealed information. It wasn't so much as lights, physical lights, but information lights.
Such as what? As an enlightenment.
Inspiration.
An enlightenment.
Enlightenment. All right, enlightenment. Urim means enlightenment, and Thummim means truth. Enlightenment and truth, that's what those things mean. All right, enlightenment are lights and truth. All right? Did that help you a little bit? He couldn't get any information. The Lord wasn't answering him through the priest or anything else, Sister Andino.
So the Lord used to talk to the people of Israel by dreams, by Urim, and by the prophets.
Yes.
And either of these
He couldn't get any answers now. He couldn't get an answer. He had no information. But God had already answered him, hadn't he? His last message was from Samuel, wasn't it? What did Samuel tell him? The Lord is going to rend the kingdom from your hand. And then Saul did his best to try to kill David, and it didn't work, did it? All right? Now, let's go on and see what happened. Verse number 7. Verse number 7. Jessica, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Saul then said to his attendants, "Find me a woman who is a medium, so I may go and inquire of her." "There is one in Endor," they said.
All right, this woman that is a medium. All right, now what did she do? Now, in the ancient times, these spirits would overtake these people, and they would babble. Sometimes they would whisper or whatever, and they would talk in what they called an unknown language. It was a language of the gods, and they had somebody that could interpret it. All right? They had somebody that could interpret it. And the priests were the ones that interpreted the message. Okay? Let's look at this. "And Saul said to his servant, Seek for me a woman who is a medium, that I may go to her and inquire her. And his servant said to him, Behold, there is a woman." You know, they knew this already. They already knew this? Why do you think they knew it? They were seeking her attention now and then. A woman who is a medium, a mantuomai, or mantuase, that's the word. The same word that goes in the New Testament, this mantuomene, that's in the New Testament. Okay? At Endor. And where is Endor? That means the fountain of Dor. All right? Endor means the fountain of Dor. Whose property was this, according to the Bible? Remember Manasseh and Ephraim? That's where their property was. This is where Manasseh and Ephraim, I think Asher was there. And then verse number 8. Sister Andino, were you over there?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm crying.
28 and verse 8. Are you there, Luis? 28 and 8?
Yeah, 28 and 8.
Uh-huh.
Saul therefore disguised himself and put on other raiments and departed. And he and 2 men with him, they came to the woman by night, and he said, Divine for me, I pray thee by the familiar spirit, and bring me up for me whoever I should name unto thee.
Boy, conjure up for me, please. Now, what do you do when you go to these fortune tellers? These people on television? My son was killed in a motorcycle wreck. Does he have a message for me? Sometimes, do you think that they can actually give a message from the spirit world? Why, these spirits that are in Gabriel's realm are messengers. They have heard every story. They knew Buddha. Who was Confucius? They knew Confucius. And they haven't died since then. They just keep on living. And all this information there, do you think they get Alzheimer's and forget? Do you think that they might be able to take a person and put it in their mind? Have you ever heard of people speaking in Chinese or something, didn't know the language? Say that they were Genghis Khan in a former life or something? It's real, people. They weren't in a former life, but these spirits take control of them, and they can mimic the person. They can mimic the person's voice. Now, some of them are fakers. Don't worry about the fakers, because they're just faking it. But those that can give you the real information, you better tremble around them people, because you're near a demon.
Well, that's what Brigham Young did
That's right.
when Joseph Smith died.
They said he stood up before the congregation and he looked and sounded just like Joseph Smith.
Yep. You better be careful. You better fear when you run onto somebody that can really do this, because that's demonic world there. Demonic world. Call up and see who I can name for you. In verse 9, I'm going to kind of hurry along because we're running behind a little bit. But the woman said to him, Behold, you know what Saul has done? Now he's dressed. Here's Saul now. And she said, you know what Saul's done? How he's cut off all of those that are soothsayers, that are mediums, that are witches, mumblers and babblers. That's what this term says. And spiritists from the land. Why are you laying a snare for me and for my life to bring about my death? And look what Saul said in verse number 10, Brother Luis.
And then Saul swore unto her by Jehovah, saying, By the life of Jehovah there shall be no punishment befall thee for this thing.
He uses the Lord's name in vain. Now that's exactly what he did. He swore by Jehovah that he wasn't going to let her get hurt. Verse number 11, the woman said, Whom shall I bring up for you? And he said, Bring up Samuel for me. Now what was the last thing that Samuel told Saul? Remember the last thing again. What did he tell him? The kingdom is writ from your hand, and you will never see me again. Didn't he? He said, You will never see me again. You will never see me again. Now, pay close attention to what the Bible is inspired, people. I'm telling you, down to the dotting of the I and the crossing of the T. And a woman saw Samuel, and she cried out with a loud voice, and the woman spoke to Saul, saying, Why have you deceived me? For you are Saul. That woman's scared. She's seen something now that she's not familiar with. I believe the Lord overruled this situation. And the king said to her, Do not be afraid. What do you see? And the woman said to him, I see what? Brother Luis, what did he see? And verse number 13, he's got the Sacred Name Bible, and it tells you what it says in Hebrew. All right?
13?
Uh-huh.
And the king said unto her, Be not afraid, but what sawest you? And the woman said unto Saul, And Elohim saw I come up out of the earth.
All right. You know what he saw? He said he saw Elohim. That's the word for creator. She said, I see Elohim. What she literally says in Hebrew, I have seen Elohim. I see God. All right? God opened the door. God opened the door. Verse number 14, and he said to her, What is his form? And he said, An old man is coming up. An old man is coming up now. He is wrapped with a robe, and Saul knew that it was Samuel, and he bowed his face to the ground and did homage. Did Saul see him?
No.
Saul didn't see him. Samuel said, You'll never see me again. And Samuel said to Saul, Samuel speaks now. This is the Bible. Who spoke?
Samuel.
Samuel. A lot of people don't think this was Samuel. But what does the Bible say?
Samuel.
Samuel. Do you believe the Bible?
Yes.
All right. And Samuel said to Saul, Why have you disturbed me, bringing me up? Why have you brought me back into these worldly problems? I'm over here in paradise now with Abraham. Why have you brought me back into the worldly problems? I'm finished with that. I'm done with it. All right? And Saul said, I am greatly distressed. The Philistines are waging war on me, and God has departed from me, and answers me no more, either from prophets or dreams before. Therefore I called you, that you may make known to me what should I do. And Samuel says, Why then do you ask me, since the Lord has departed from you and has become your adversary, your enemy? Why did the Lord become his enemy now? God let him, they asked for Saul, and God gave him to him, and he made him king, and he said, You just got to follow some rules, and Saul broke all the rules. He's like a child of God going the wrong way.
He went and saw that.
In life.
The psychic.
What?
He went and saw the psychic.
He's all psychic now.
Yeah.
That's right. And the Lord has done according to, what does it say there for Lord, Louise? 17.
Jehovah.
Jehovah. All right? And I knew it was Jehovah anyway, but I just wanted him to read it out of his. All right, and I already looked this in Hebrew. And Jehovah has done according as he spoke through me. He hadn't changed his mind, did Saul. God didn't change his mind. Jehovah didn't change his mind. For the Lord has torn the kingdom out of your hand and given it to your neighbor and to David. And as you did not obey Jehovah and did not execute his wrath on Amalek, so the Jehovah has done this thing to you this day. Moreover, the Lord will also give over Israel along with you into the hands of the Philistines. Therefore tomorrow you and your sons will be with me indeed. Where are they going to be?
Paradise.
In paradise. So do you think that he is saved? Yeah, he's saved. He's an ungodly saved guy. All right? The Bible answers all those questions, doesn't it? Okay? And Jehovah will give over the army of Israel into the hands of the Philistines. So Saul immediately fell full length upon the ground and was very afraid because of the words of Samuel. So there was no strength in him, for he had eaten no food all day and all night. And the woman came to Saul and saw that he was terrified and said to him, Behold, your maidservant has obeyed you, and I have taken my life in my hand and have listened to your words, which you spoke to me. Now let me give you some bread to eat, so you can have a little strength. But he refused. He was scared. He didn't want to eat. How many of you have ever been so depressed about something you didn't want to eat? Have death in your family or something so terrible that you just didn't feel like eating? Well, Saul saw the end. 2 times God said, the end is near. 2 times he said, the end is near. And he knew that the end was near. God gave him a double message here. God even disquieted poor old Samuel and sent him back to give him a message. There's one man that went out of paradise back into the world. Talk about people who've gone to heaven and seen heaven. Here's the only one that I can tell you. Now, John was a time traveler, and he went into heaven in the future and told us what it looked like. God brought him through time. But this man had died and gone to paradise, and God sent him back for a message. There aren't any other messengers, people, all the psychics and things in the world. All these people that have messages from God today, continual revelation. In the charismatic movement today, what is the problem with the charismatic movement? Continual revelation. We have a revelation. We have a complete revelation. We don't need any more revelation. We got it. We got the real deal. And what carried them away in their charismatic movement today? What is the real problem with that? They practice an ancient culture that is not unfamiliar in the pagan world, and they brought it into the Christian
Tongues and interpretation.
That's exactly what it was. Then in the New Testament era, we have tongues in the New Testament era. Glossia, don't we? We got our word glossia from that word glossia. All right. In the King James Version, they made a mistake saying unknown tongues, because they knew what this unknown tongues were in pagan culture, so they thought God had copied that. God didn't copy the pagan culture. Churches got involved with that pagan rite, and they brought it into churches. In the early part, or the last part of the 1800s, and the early part of the 1900s, we see it growing in churches all throughout the land. It wasn't something that was new. A lot of them say it's in the last days that this is going to happen. But this happened a long time ago. It was always in the culture. And any of these people, they usually, there are some people in the charismatic movement that are spiritual people. And there are a lot of saved people in it, but there are a lot of deceived saved people. As simple as that. That's where I came from. I was saved in a charismatic church.
You
When I
think
was a little kid.
predestination or what?
Huh?
Like
No. Charismatic churches. Your Pentecostal and hyper-Pentecostal churches. All of that. Amen McPherson. All right? All of that. The Foursquare. All of that. That's where it came from. That's where all these come from. I started out in fire-baptized Methodists. And back in those cultures, and the Russian churches that came over here into America. And then we had the Azusa, a street revival in the early part of the 1800s. Remember that? All right, that's where it all came from. But this practice that they got goes way back in the Bible. And don't confuse that with godly practice, okay? Because it has nothing to do with it. And we can trace it all the way through the Bible, and it's always the same thing. We see it. All right, always the same thing. You don't need any revelation today. We have the revelation. What we need to do a lot of times is trust God. Trust God with our future and in our lives. You know, you don't have to worry about what's going to happen in the future. Pray and ask God's guidance. Like my friend Troy in Alabama the other day, I wrote him an email and told him, I said, I'm really sick. This is really, I just about stopped my teaching. I said, I need your prayers. And you see the email back to me, and it just said, done. And you know what? I could tell it. It happened. I started feeling better. God was answering prayers. I love to teach. That's what I live for. I live to teach. Is that right, Marilyn?
Yeah.
She gets aggravated at me sometimes. I study too much, don't I? All the time. All the time. But I am in love with God's Word because it reveals God to me. It reveals our destinies to us, doesn't it? Does this lesson answer some questions today? We went back here. I couldn't just jump over this verse. We spent a lot of time in here, but I wanted you to understand what was going on here with Saul. What Saul was asking for, what Saul got involved in. Saul was a saved man. Can a saved man get involved with bad stuff? Sure. Sure, a saved man can get involved with bad stuff. Well, we'll go on from there. We'll go out, and then we're going to smooth on through. We're going to go through David's life. We're going to hit the highlights of David's life, and then we're going to separate the kings of Israel and Judah and all of that. And then we're going to, through the prophets, we're going to look at Daniel a little bit, different ones. Are you looking forward to that? All right. Well, thank you for your attention today. Brother David, it's yours. Thank you for enduring those hard seats. And pray for me, please, that God will get me back in my body back in place after that fall. And we got a little